the target language production. Okay, due to, I don't know, maybe because of you feel nervous, or you feel what else? You feel nervous. You don't know the rules, right? So somehow the rules, your first language rules interfere your second language rules. Okay. And then when we talk about code mixing, it's a choice. Okay, you have a choice whether you want to code switch or code mixing. Why I said this is that because, for example, when you talk to your parents, you use code mixing to um, emphasize something. Okay, emphasize the elements that you want to emphasize. So it's a choice. It's not interlanguage. Interlanguage is language errors. Okay, somehow your first language rules interfere with your second language production, whereas for code mixing is more on choice. You being bilingual, being multilingual, you have a choice to use code mixing, or you can use full English, or full native speakers, your own mother tongue. Okay. In the same slide, madam, could you explain about the monitor hypothesis under the language processing models? I think I have explained this, right? Yesterday, because Fatima Sarah asked the same questions.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, madam.
okay, I hope it's clear, Nabila.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
right,
it's
great.
clear. Thank you,
Okay,
madam.
all right. Regarding last week's two-tier questions, can we discuss the questions together? Because I want to know the correct answers and views from you. Okay, maybe we can come back to this once we finish with the rest of the questions. Yeah. One thing that I can comfort. I can make yourself feel comfortable is that questions on meaning and meaning representations and inferences will not be asked during your final assessment. But yeah, we can always discuss after this. Ain, madam, can you explain more about connectionism and cognitive theory in children language development slides? I found it is hard to understand. So let me open the PowerPoint first. Mm, lecture notes. It's
Madam,
yeah,
do you record this meeting?
yeah, I forgot to record. Thank you for pointing it out. Okay.
Because my
Yeah,
connection is
thank
bit
you.
lagging.
All right, so I'll be record this.
Okay.
Okay, so me we'll go to let me where is the documents, teachings, and under band. So yeah, okay. Now the meeting is in progress. So let me share you the PowerPoint. I will share you the content as well. So we go to PowerPoint.
Doctor,
Yeah,
I want to ask for the yesterday's video. Do you have the recording?
I have recorded. Wait, let
Uh-huh.
me double check. Where does it go?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
because I think, yeah, I have recorded it. Uh, Hmm. Maybe I can check in my feedback. Okay. I think I have to search for the place later on and I'll try to share it again with you guys, okay? So,
Okay, doctor.
alright, okay. So let's have a look at connectionism. Um, so connectionism and cognitive theory. So um, imitation. So we have a look at the cognitive theory first, yeah? So, uh, okay, which part, Ain, could you please be more specific? Which part of cognitive, the theories that you don't really understand, or the whole thing? Ain, is Ain here?
Wait.
It's okay. Okay, maybe I'll explain in general first, and then if you don't get it, maybe we can discuss after this. Okay. All right. So
Okay.
for first, we look at cognitive theory. All right. So the cognitive, the connectivists or you know, these people, Bates and Sinder, McNamara, Piaget, okay, and Sinclair, these what? Okay, Piaget is among prominent theory in cognitivist, as a cognitivist, all right? They said that children learn about the world first and then map language onto that prior experience, okay? For example, an infant first attains object permanence concept and begins to note the disappearance of objects by saying all gone, right? This theory is challenged when there are cases that suggest a possible dissociation between cognitive and linguistic development. So, uh, you need to know that for cognitivists, they believe that we learn the world first and then we map language onto that prior experience. Okay, meaning to say that kids or children are born, the brain are born with as a blank slate. Blank slate meaning to say just like a piece of white cloth. Okay, and then by the experience and then you learn about the world, for example, in this case about object permanence, then with that you map. Okay, you understand the object permanence concept first, and after that you map on your language productions and language comprehension device. But this is argue. This statement is argue because not all cases are related. Okay, for uh, for example, uh, Mm, for example, in some cases where uh, you don't need to have experience about the world first, but you can produce. For example, yeah, what is the nearest example that I can give you? Mm, is there any suggestions? Yeah, so Zudi said that. So this theory, the cognitivist, is against it's against of the innate theory. Okay, because they believe that we learn about the world first and then with that we produce language. Whereas for innatism, we believe that there's a language acquisition device intact in our brain. Okay? So I do not know how to give the best example for number 4. Now moving on to connectionism, parallel distributed processing model. Okay, this is a model only. It's not a theory. Okay, which is based on a computer module. Okay, a computer model of language representations and acquisition has been proposed that relies in part of behaviorism, analogy, and reinforcement. In this model, no grammatical rules are stored anywhere. So they believe that no grammatical rules are stored anywhere. Linguistic knowledge, which is past tense, is represented by a set of neurons-like connections between different phonological forms. For example, play. Okay, imagine yourself, okay, the brain, right, your head, and then you have stored information of the past tense, played, dance, here, for example, yeah. And then you have stored linguistic knowledge on the present tense here, which is play and play. Now, when you have to use the words, right, the verb to describe whether it's present or past events, you know where to find. So somehow it's connecting, okay, berkait rapat. So play and play, dance and dance. It's just that between present or past tense. And repeated exposure to particular verb pairs in the input reinforce the connection between them, mimicking rule-like behavior. Our analogy to dance and dance, it will convert prance to prance as so forth. Okay, this is why connectionism is not is being argued. Okay, the model itself in terms of language production. I think the best way is to do some sort of extra readings on this. I do not want to go into, you know, into this too much because it's not going to be asked in your final assessment anyway. But you need to know this, right? Okay. Here it says that some serious challenges. This model assumes that the language of the child's environment has very specific properties, and rules such as formations of the past tense cannot be based on phonological form alone, but must also be sensitive to information in the lexicon. Because for past tense, we don't only add ed, right? We have irregular verbs in past form, okay? Such as go, it will be when. So how to connect this, right? So these are the challenges faced by connectionism model. So yeah. Is that clear, Ain? Ain?
Yes.
I think you need to do a little bit more reading on this in order to understand. Okay.
I tried to search it, but I don't know. It's nowhere to be found.
It's a PDP model. I mean, you try searching it in
Internet.
internet, but the other thing that come out instead of yeah. Maybe you need to be a little bit more specific. How about trying the connectionism PDP model for language acquisition or language development?
I will try. Thank you.
Yeah, because this is computer generated model, so somehow it might brings you to a computer science punya area rather than a language area. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So Anis Fatiha, I don't really have questions to ask, but if it's possible, can we have the answers for all tutorials? Okay. All right. Okay, the next one is the dementia disease affect not only short-term memory but also a long-term memory. Madam, do you think people who suffer dementia will eventually lose all of their memories over time? or only half of the memory? Or will they will still have any memories after a long period of time? I think this question is a bit hard for me to answer because I'm not a neurologist. But again, it applies the same as um, the one that I mentioned about aphasia, right? You need to see uh, how damaging uh, the thing is on the on specific person. We should go case by case rather than making a generalization. Okay, because do you think people who suffer dementia will eventually lose all of their memories over time? It depends. It depends. Okay, somehow if you have a brain disease, somehow your brain will start to deteriorating, right? So the potential of losing all your memories are the chances are high. Okay, it depends on cases. Uh, okay, so Najee, how could you record? All right. A reference for my questions. What type of questions will come out in the exam? MCQ or essay? Kairajiha. Okay. If it's in the form of essay, how and what should we include in it? Okay. Since you have to type the answer rather than writing it, right? So it's going to be state a label and states the functions, which is short answers. And you will have to answer essay question as well. No MCQ from me. I'm very sorry. Unfortunately, no MCQ for psycholinguistics. And I think if you can relate all the informations together, you can actually explain. And some of the questions are pretty straightforward. Yeah. I do not want to talk more about that. If not, I have the tendencies to reveal the questions. Okay, you were curious about the answers. So, the last question is coming from Fariha. There are three measures of phonological loop: digit span, word recall, and non-word recall. Okay, my question is that what is the relationship between working memory with phonology? Working memory is long-term memory is where you store the information of how you pronounce S, how you pronounce V, ver, right? So what is the relationship between working memory with phonology? What is the relationship? Try to guess the answer. We have almost 59 participants. Try to guess the answer. So what is the relationship between working memory and phonology? Now we are talking about phonology.
I guess
Does
I
does it
think
have anything to do with repetition? Like for kids, they use working memory to store the words that are being spoken to them, and then they repeat what is being said. Maybe.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? Because can you
Oh,
repeat?
sorry. Like for example, as for kids, usually adults say things towards them, and then their working memory to store the words that are being spoken to them. Is it like that chronologically?
Mm, it's like I have informed you guys about examples of when you when you listen to when you wanted to dial numbers, kan? Someone, your friend is reading the numbers to you. It's being stored automatically in working memory because you need to conduct the action, which is to dial the numbers, right? So the relationship between working memory. Working memory is the main functions of working memory is to what?
So temporarily,
Store temporary information. Okay. Apart from that, perform an action. Yeah.
To
Okay.
store
So
temporary info.
yeah, store temporary info. Yeah. And then apart from that, just now someone mentioned about, I think in the chat you can see that perform an action. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's why the relationship is that it has to go to working memory, right? And then phonology is when you pronounce the you have to repeat whatever people be when someone reads something to you and you need to repeat it, right? So it goes to your working memory and the phonological sounds too coming out from your mouth. Okay, all right. I hope it's clear or it's not. Yeah. Okay ke? Mariha, are you here? Are you there? Okay.
Tim,
Yeah.
I don't quite understand by performing the action. Like, so we can pronounce the word. It doesn't consider as LTM.
Okay. Don't get confused. Working memory and long-term memory is the place where we store information, right? Okay. For long-term memory, it's about past experience. It's about details or informations that you wanted to be retained longer in your brain, right? Whereas for the working memory, is for temporarily stored temporary information. For example, when someone um, when someone inform you about, I keep on giving the same example. Let's think about other example. When someone asks you to write down their names, okay, and that was the first time where you met this person, okay? So you are in charge of a registration. So when you listen, okay, when you heard to the sound produced by the speakers, okay, it goes to your working memory and then you wrote down and, okay. At the same time, you retrieve your information, the shape of the N, the sound of the N, okay? The alphabet is stuff which is being stored in long-term memory. But working memory is to temporarily stored short information. For example, you tak nak ingat dah this person. For example, Nadia came to you. Okay, my name is Nadia. And then you writing down Nadia's name. Okay, next, siapa pula? Aisyah. Okay, but then after like a few hours after that, you bump into Nadia again. Tapi you, nama apa eh? So it means that it's being stored in your working memory rather than your long-term memory. Okay, faham tak?
Okay, understand.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Clear. Okay. Maybe habis cara dah nak explain to you guys. Okay, so any more questions regarding this before we proceed with, because you wanted to discuss tutorial questions kan? So where should we begin? Should we begin with which slides that you want me to discuss? Class? Which tutorial that we should start first?
Maybe we can start with the earlier chapter.
The first at the beginning of the class, yeah. So let's
Yep.
see. I'll open first introductions week 1, what we have. So what we have here is that, okay, so can you see the PowerPoint? Can you see the slide?
Yes, madam.
Yes, okay. So what arguments did Chomsky give against behaviorist views of language? I hope you can answer this.
Which is innate.
Innatisms, right? So it has something to do with innatisms, all right? So language is innate, meaning to say that we are born with a language acquisition device, all right? So
Yes.
So, which is against of the behaviorist. Okay, if you are asked with this type of questions, you need to explain a little bit about behaviorist as well. So you need to mention just now because your friends asked me how to answer the questions, right? So inform us first. So this behaviorist mentioned that learning a language is through imitation or repetition, okay, etc., etc. But Chomsky is against that argument because blah blah blah. And then first point, second point, third point. Okay? Next one. When did the term psycholinguistics arise? It's pretty straightforward, right? I think when is that? Yes? When is that? When did the term psycholinguistics arise? I think you can answer this on your own.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, the next one. What is verbal behavior? What is verbal behavior? No response.
Verbal is like
Wait, doctor, sorry.
anything that is related to words.
Okay. Verbal is like anything related to words. So verbal behavior is that your behavior, okay, your behavior in producing. Okay, okay, kejap, madam. I have to rearrange the words. Nanti kan you will get more confused. Verbal behavior is something that related to behaviorism. Okay, we mentioned about children. Yeah, so Fatina Shah mentioned about coined by B.F. Skinner. Yes, it is coined by B.F. Skinner. So what does Skinner say? What does Skinner say about verbal behavior? By the 1920s, behaviorism took over the mainstreams of experimental psychology. Okay, they preferred verbal behavior, which is a term used by B.F. Skinner. Okay. All right. Next one. What are the characteristics? Is language species specific? Language ni species specific ke? Is it specialized for different things?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Why is that? What makes us different from others? From other animals?
Our language have rules.
Okay, our language has rules, right? Okay, one good example. And then in terms of their, yes, physically we can compare ourselves with orang-utans or gorillas. They have a similar language organs, but what makes us different is in terms of maybe in terms of tongue, the shape of the tongue, or the shapes of the mouth itself, right? So yes, language is species specific. It's specifically for human being only. Okay?
Doctor.
Yep.
And also the animals doesn't have like already like we have, right? They don't have like a device to store the language. Like we
Yes. Yes. That's another point that you can use if people ask you to explain about whether language is language species specific. Yep. Okay. What are the characteristics of features of human language? I think you can explain this, right? Characteristics of human language, right? This is like quite, yeah, very straightforward. Okay. All right. Now moving on to next one, which is maybe we can choose the most difficult question for that tutorial, okay? To save time. Did I stop sharing the... Okay. What happened just now? Okay. Right, now moving to these the lexical acquisitions of sign language. Do deaf children face the same difficulties like normal children? Okay, I think we don't have any questions, right? For that. This is not. Okay, this is not the one. Okay. Now we move on to wild and isolated. We talk about critical period hypothesis. But there's no questions on this? Or maybe I post it in what do you call it? In clips, right? Class, are you still with me?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
All right. This is
It's going good.
the downside of having online teaching. Ni dia rasa macam I'm speaking. Kita on ni. Okay, start. Okay. Now moving on to animals and language learning. Okay. I think it's better for me to tutup my video. Senang you guys. Okay. Okay, let us do some thinking. An African grey parrot named Alex was the subject of a 30-year experiment and was reported to have learned the meanings of 150 words. There are many reports on the internet about Alex's impressive abilities. Discuss whether Alex's communications were the results of classical operant conditioning. Okay, when we talk about classical operant conditioning, it means something to do with behaviorism. Okay, remember Piaget? Okay, or whether he showed true linguistic creativity as his trainers maintain. So, what do you guys feel about Alex? Alex ni betul ke boleh bercakap atau is it because of the classical operant conditioning? Just like dogs and kittens, right? Tekan loceng, ting ting, perform something in order for them to receive treats. What do you think in the case of Alex? Because Alex is very famous. Do you think
I
it's
think
a
it is classical operant conditioning, just like behaviorism.
yeah. Okay. So we couldn't say that Alex actually ada linguistic creativity. Not really. But we'll never know because we haven't conducted proper and experiments, or there is at the moment at present there is no scientifically um, scientific method to conduct such experiment, right? Okay, now questions number 2. A wolf is able to express subtle gradations of emotion, okay, by different positions of the ears, the lips, and the tail. The same goes to dogs and cats, right? If you notice, if cat's curious, the tail is different from if a cat feels scared. There are 11 postures of the tail that express such emotions: self-confidence, confident threat, and even complete submission. This system seems to be complex. Suppose that there were 1,000 different emotions that the wolf could express in this way. Would you then say a wolf had a language similar to a human? If not, why not? Can we say that? Can we agree that this kind of emotions are actually ways for wolf to communicate? Can we say that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, my next question. Is this communication, a way of communication similar to humans?
No.
No, why not?
Because they're not like
It's not
systematic, something.
the language,
Because they are not what?
verbal language.
It's not verbal language. So,
But
Language
I
system.
but for me, I think there's some way we can be similar to those animals, because we sometimes show body languages to show our emotion, like when we're angry.
yeah. Okay. So, so somehow we share similar features, right, with animals in terms of the way we communicate, which is the non-verbal part. Okay, just now I think Zuli is right. Zuli mentioned about the verbal part make us different from animals. But how about sign language? Isn't it physically,
Yes, madam.
produced? So yeah. Uh,
But our
is your
language
mm,
have rules.
I'm sorry, you
Our language has the rules like morphology, syntax, and
yeah, okay. I think the strongest argument that you can give is that we have rules. Okay, we have a very complex rules for human beings, and then we have this a device which is being stored in our mind. Okay, now suppose you taught a dog to heel, sit up, roll over, play that, stay, jump, and bark on command using the highlighted yellow words as cues. Would you be teaching it language? Is it a language or it's just a command? Why or why not? Ha. Adakah itu satu bentuk bahasa, komunikasi, atau different things, atau it's just a command only?
I think it's one of the form of language as well, because that animal, that dog, receive the information and the communication happens. I don't
Okay,
know.
the communication part. I mean, the dog can understand you, but of course, it has something to do with the operant conditional procedure kan. You need to
Yes.
give in the first place when you wanted to train dogs ataupun cat, you provide treats to them. Okay, so it becomes a behavior, macam habit. It's a habitual. Kalau I buat this one, my tuan, my master will give me this treat. I tak buat, I tak dapat treat. So I want treat. I want to eat. So I need to perform this. So
Pavlov's conditioning theory, madam.
yes, Pavlov conditioning theory. Okay. Would you be teaching it language? So it's not whether is it a language or it's just some forms of language only, kan? So we couldn't say that yeah, it's a language, no, because again, it goes back to you how you define what language means. Okay, we have a systems of rules, okay, systems of grammar, etc., etc., and even phonology, the way we produce sounds. Okay, all right. Now moving on to, we have 4 more minutes. Let's look at SLA theories and definitions. Okay, for sociocultural approaches, no, we don't have any tutorial. I think I put it in the clip, if I'm not mistaken. The same goes to interlanguage as well. Do we have story questions for this? No, we don't have one. Okay, next is bilingualism. Okay, so what are the strategies to become a better learner? I think we have discussed this, right, in our tutorial.
Yes,
Face-to-face
madam.
face-to-face tutorial.
Yeah, no need.
Okay, so no need. Let's have a look at brain biological foundations about brain. Okay. Yeah, we have tutorial questions. Okay, this is a summary. This is okay. We discussed about speaking disturbance in aphasias, right? How about writing and reading? Okay. How about writing and reading disturbance in aphasias? Do you think these people still can write? They still can read?
I think they will have some sort of problem with it.
Some sort of problems, okay? Such as? I can hear microphone. Okay, some sort of problems. But of course, you're not going to give that kind of answer, right? Some sort of problems only in your final exam, final assessment. It depends. Again, if you have to answer this kind of question, you need to mention about the specific area of the brain that is damaged. Depends on the area of the damage. Okay. If it goes, if you damage your broadcast area, what will happen in terms of the writing and reading? Okay. If you damage your Wernicke's area, which is the production, the comprehension area, what will happen? Okay. All right.
Right,
Next one.
madam.
Okay, madam.
What might happen if a bilingual person suffered an injury to broadcast area? Okay, will both language be affected or just one? Why? And what aspects of language might be affected? Okay, I think you have to go to broadcast area and look at the functions of the broadcast area and the case studies related to broadcast area, and then you can explain whether if you are a bilingual person, whether it's gonna be will you suffer on one language only or both language are being affected as well. Okay, I'm sorry, I have that. Okay, alright. Okay, I think Neda nak kena make it fast. Lambatlah pula. Sekejap. So this is the, let's open this one. Okay, so we talk about, just now kita discuss about reading and writing, right? Now, how about sign language user who is aphasic? Is their ability to sign disturbed as well?
Yes.
Yes. Apa menguap tu? Astaga. Okay. Alright, so guys, tolonglah. I know this is like last class. I know that you are bored with me with this
Oh,
podcast.
madam.
No, madam. I'm just trying to digest.
It's okay. So, okay. Okay. Sabar, last class, right? So, okay. How about sign language users? So, it depends kan. Kalau kata it affects the remember the motor cortex here kan dekat bahagian tengah tu. So, kalau tempat itu affected with kata accidents ke apa, somehow it disrupt the physical production. Okay? Tapi that person still can understand. Tapi kalau dia affected broadcast or even when they kiss, the same goes to them. Even though they sign, even though they are using sign, because we believe that the language acquisition device is being stored at a specific place. Okay? Alright. I will try to make this fast as I can. Okay, the next one is week 12, I think. Okay. Okay, I think we discussed about this kan yesterday about sexist language, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
All right. Okay, can we skip this?
Yes, yes.
Sure, madam.
Okay. All right. Now to psycholinguistic mechanisms. It's a bit complicated. It's a bit difficult.
Yes, this
But okay.
tutorial with the answer.
Yeah. Just one. This is the reading. This is the choose. Okay. So choose one question and provide your answer in clip. Apply act theory on the acquisitions of second language learning. You have to refer to the ACT theory. Okay. I think this is straightforward. You refer to ACT theory and then you apply it on your second language learning. Why is it difficult for us to understand such sentence? Give your explanations. The man, the dog, the cat chase, beat, that. Why is that? Why?
Because there's no punctuation mark.
Uh,
Of
yeah, you
Is
can
it
say that, but try to relate to the mechanism behind it.
Because
madam?
it's
Is it because of
grammatically incorrect.
Because
It
what is
is grammatically incorrect.
grammatically incorrect? We have the subject, verbs, and then adjective, right? That.
doctor? Is it because we cannot relate this information to our episodic memory as
Yes. Okay, because we were talking about episodic memory, kan, and working memory, etc., etc. So somehow you have the SVO punya sentence structure, and then suddenly you nak kena parse, or kata categorize accordingly. The man is the subject, the dog can be the subject as well, the cat can be the subject as well. Chase, okay, which is verb, okay, beat, which is verb, and then die. Okay, so yes, it has something to do with it's difficult for our episodic memories to to categorize this. So sebab tu dia macam susah to understand this sentence. Whereas if you are given the man chase uh, the the dog chase the cat, it's pretty straightforward kan? It's easier. Okay, alright. Discuss studies of individuals with brain damage and their relationship to the concepts of episodic memory. Okay, these questions you need to relate about aphasics too, being aphasic, and then about episodic memory. Okay, remember there's a part in your brain yang stored information. Okay, you need to relate to that. Discuss the experimental evidence that has tested various aspects of the Baddeley Hitch model. Okay, I think you can search this. Right? What role might working memory play in the acquisitions of language? So what role might working memory play in acquisitions of language?
the wait, I forgot the term. Wait, madam.
Working memory. I think I couldn't. I have to to try to finish as soon as possible because I noticed
Is
that some
it
of you.
madam, when we listen to the words and then we try to remember what we listen based how to say see we have learned okay, I put it in a picture. We learn it in our we learn the language, so we
Okay.
store it in our episodic memory. So when we hear the languages being articulated, we
Mm-hmm.
try to the working memory try to work with episodic memory to make sense of what we learn. We
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah. Betul. Okay, so you have to relate macam tu. Kalau you being asked this kind of questions, you kena support with kata theories, arguments that we discussed before this. Okay, next, do we really use only 10% of our brain? This is
No.
quite general. Kejap,
No.
I'm sorry, kejap. I'm sorry, kejap. Okay, sorry, my mom called just now, so I thought it was an emergency or what. Alright, so no, we don't really use 10% of our brains kan. So siapa yang kata we use only 10% of our brain? Okay, so how many percent of brains that we use?
100%.
100%. Okay, because it's a very complex kata regions kan. Imagine to read a single word itself. Kalau kita boleh relate with what we learned before this, when you visualize the things and then it goes into your mind, working memory, episodic memory, it's very complex itself kan. At the same time, you are multitasking with so many things. You have to listen, you have to comprehend to my lecture. Okay, so we couldn't say that only 10% of our brain being used. It's just a myth. Yeah. Consider a second language learners who acquires the sequence. Have you been waiting long? Okay, these are the sequence. By learning a grammar rule of the present perfect progressive. Now, consider the naturalistic language learner who picks up the sequence as a complete chunk during conversations with somebody at the bus stop. Can you relate these types of learning to the two types of long-term memory? Okay. So the one is by the first one is attending proper formal education. Okay. Whereas for the second one is by attending the non-formal or what we call it naturalistic learning process. Okay, can you relate these types of learning to the two types of long-term memory? We have two types of long-term memory, right? Which is episodic and
Tick, madam.
semantic and episodic, right?
Episodic and semantic. Yeah.
Okay. So for the one that naturally learn from a naturalistic, we can say that is being stored in episodic memory. Okay. Whereas for the one yang belajar melalui formal education, the structure is from semantic memory. Okay tak? So far.
Okay, madam.
Okay, madam. Alright. Okay, next. Last one. This one you tak payah risau sebab it's not going to be asked. So you can just skip this part untuk your final assessment. It's just that as a psycholinguistic students, you need to know about meaning, representations, and inference. So the tutorial questions. Can you suggest what reasons the reader might have for making the inferences described? Compare your reading of the following sentences with your reading of Bill had been murdered, the knife lay by the body. Bill had been murdered, the rain fell. Bill had been murdered, our meal is delivered at 8. Bill had been murdered, a knife lay by a body. Okay, the first one, Bill had been murdered, the rain fell. Okay, inference apa yang you guys boleh buat? The reason reader akan kata making this kind of inference. Bill had been murdered, the rain fell.
He died during a rainy day or night.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why it's being associated. That is your inference, kan? The second one, Bill had been murdered. Our meal is delivered at 8. So you were talking
He died at morning because mail is delivered during morning only. Like I don't know. That's
okay. Bill had been murdered. So it has something to do with time here.
yes.
Okay. Okay? Faham? Alright. And then number 3, Bill had been murdered. A knife lay by a body. Okay? Cuba tengok dekat dia punya articles that being used. Number 3, we use a non-definite article which is a. A kan? It's not specific. So, what is your inference here?
The knife may of murder.
a massacre murder.
apart from Bill, there are another body there, like another person have been killed.
Yes. Okay. That's why you need to be very careful, and that's why I told you that it has something to do with this cause analysis. Okay, linguistic analysis. Notice that the words that being used. The knife lay by the body. Okay, the knife here refers to the murderous weapon kan? By the body. The body is referring to Bill. Bill. Untuk yang the first one. Tapi the third one, a knife lay by a body. Which is not definite one, not specific. Which knife we are talking about? And then which body? Not Bill's body, kan?
My God.
My God, that's why you need to be extra careful, especially when you are a linguistic student. So that's why you need to be extra careful when people speak to you. Okay, the choice of words. So that's why words are very powerful.
Yes,
The
madam.
choice of words determine your intention. Not to say that we are overanalyze ke ataupun overthinking, but that's how linguists work. Okay, that's what we work. We analyze words. Okay, all right. Okay, next one. Bridging inferences. Explain the effect of using the definite article in your inference. Okay, Sue went out walking. The park was beautiful. So the park here referring to
The place where Sue
Where
is walking.
Sue went out walking.
yes. Okay, so number 5. We got into Cairo at 3 in the morning. The flight was late. So meaning to say that
Why we got
We got into Cairo by flight.
we were late because
because of the flight delay.
yeah, the flight has been
Oh,
delayed or the flight is late or even because of uh, another inference that we can do is that we go to Cairo. We went to Cairo via
Plane.
yeah, okay, by plane. All right. Number 6. He went into the room. The window were open. He went into the room. The window were open. So, what kind of inferences that you can say about this?
he went into the room through window.
Yeah, you can make inference. Okay, you can interpret macam tu juga. He went into the room. The window were open. Pintu tu kita tingkap tu dia terbuka. So this person might be a thief, right? Might be someone else yang cuba masuk ke dalam rumah orang. Or he went into the room through the doors. The window were open. And maybe he noticed that barang-barang dia hilang. Okay? So someone might broke into into the room. Number 7. My car needs attention. The handbrake is not working. So the handbrake is referring to
The handbrake of the car.
handbrake of the car. So needs attention sebab apa? Sebab the handbrake is not working.
Yes.
I have stopped watching TV. The program are so bad. I have stopped watching TV. The program. What kind of program?
TV program.
TV
Channel.
program. Okay, channel, whatever channel. Okay?
Madam, I couldn't believe that I answered it correctly. Like dalam.
So you need to be you need to be confident with yourself.
Congrats.
Okay, congrats. Okay. Alright, so be confident. Okay. So I think that's all from I think that's all from me. Okay. So can we just take a photo for our last class? Can we do that?
Uh,
You
I-
do you
Yeah,
want us
you're not
to
wearing you are not wearing